name. Everybody was nice. Weather was a little warm. And it is great to be back. I've got a couple of people I want to acknowledge. First of all, please give Deanne a big round of applause. I'm a little sweet on Deanne, not just because of a great introduction, but also because she's a nurse, and I just love nurses. They do such a great job every day. Also, we've got one of your outstanding U.S. Senators, Michael Bennett, in the House. Senators who is now doing an outstanding job looking after the natural resources of this great country of ours, Secretary of the Interior, Ken Salazar. Now, those of you who have a seat, feel free to take a seat. Those of you who don't, just remember to bend your knees, because sometimes I have people drop off in the middle of it, even when I'm not talking too long, just because they've been standing too long. So, especially when it's formed like this. I love you back. Obviously, this is a smart crowd, and
yes, we are.
So I know that most of the last couple of weeks you've been watching the Olympics. Woo! U.S. athletes over in London. You've been spending time with family, trying to get outdoors at least when it cools off. But unless you've been able to hide the television completely or your cable is broke, then you may be aware there's a pretty intense campaign going on right now. And the reason it's such an intense campaign is because the choice that we face in November could not be bigger. This is not just a choice between two candidates or two political parties. It's a choice about two fundamentally different visions for the country. Two fundamentally different paths. And the direction that we choose, the direction that you choose when you walk into that voting booth in less than 3 months, is going to have a direct impact not just on our lives, but on the lives of our children and our grandchildren for decades to come. Now, 4 years ago, we came together, Democrats, but also independents and some Republicans, to restore the basic bargain that had built this country, that had made us the most prosperous nation on earth. And it's a very simple bargain. It says, if you work hard, your work will be rewarded.
Yes.
If you put in enough effort, you can find a job that pays a decent wage, pays the bills, that you can afford to have a home that you call your own, that you have health care that you can count on when you get sick. And after a lifetime of labor, you can put away enough to retire with dignity and respect. And most importantly, that you can give your kids the kind of education and opportunity that allows them to dream even bigger and do even better than you could ever imagine. That's the promise of America. When we came together, we knew restoring that bargain, that deal, that compact was not going to be easy. We knew it would take more than 1 year or one term or maybe even one president.
Yes!
We had seen what had happened in the previous decade. was going up. And then it all culminated in the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression. A crisis that robbed too many of our friends and our neighbors of jobs, the value of their homes, their savings, and all that pushed the American dream even further out of reach for too many working people. But you know what? We spent the last 3.5 years digging ourselves out of that hole.
Right. Yes.
We averted a depression. Created 4.5 million new jobs, 500,000 in manufacturing. We saved an auto industry. We worked to make college more affordable. We worked to make sure that health care was secure for families. And what we discovered during the course of these difficult times is that a crisis doesn't change our character. It doesn't change who we are as a people. It doesn't change what makes us great. Our toughness, our grit, our resilience, and our ability to come together and work together on behalf of this country. And when we came together in 2008, we understood that there's a core decency, that there's a goodness to the American people. And we need to make sure that that's reflected in what happens in Washington. We're still going.
Yes.
We're here to build an economy where hard work pays off. No matter who you are, or what you look like, or where you come from, here in America you can make it if you try. That's what this campaign's about, Colorado. That's why I'm running for a second term. Fixes or easy solutions to some of these challenges. But here's the thing that I constantly am reminded of wherever I travel across the country. We have the capacity to meet any challenge. Because we've still got the best workers in the world.
Yes.
We've got the best entrepreneurs in the world. We've got the best scientists and researchers in the world, the best colleges, the best universities. We're still a young nation, and we've got the greatest diversity of talent and ingenuity, and people want to come here from every corner of the globe. So, no matter what the naysayers tell us, no matter how dark the other side tries to make things look, the fact is there is not another country on earth that would not gladly trade places with the United States of America. What's standing in our way is not that we don't have good ideas or we don't have solutions to problems like energy independence or improving our schools. You know, what is standing in our way is our politics.
Yep.
You've got a bunch of folks in Washington who think the only way is their way, and who think that the only way to go forward is to go right back to the same policies that got us into this mess in the first place. And they believe in the old top-down economics. And we spent an entire decade trying, and they did not work. And look, I'm not exaggerating here. My opponent, Mr. Romney, and his friends in Congress, when you look at their economic ideas, when you look at, they spend a lot of time on commercials saying how, there aren't enough jobs and the economy's not growing fast enough. And then you ask them, okay, well, what is it that you're thinking about doing? And I am not exaggerating. It boils boils down to two things. First of all, they want to give more tax cuts to folks at the very top. $5 trillion worth of tax cuts on top of the Bush tax cuts. And then, so that's idea number one. Idea number two is, let's get rid of regulations that we put into place to make sure that Wall Street does not misbehave again and we don't have another meltdown. Or getting rid of regulations that help protect our air and our water. Or get rid of regulations that protect consumers from unscrupulous lenders. That's their basic idea. You get rid of regulations and you cut taxes for wealthy Americans, and somehow, jobs and prosperity will all rain down on all of us. This is the path we're proposing. If you look at you go through their websites, you look at the bills that have been passed by this House of Representatives, that is where they will take us if they win. In fact, the centerpiece of Mr. Romney's entire economic plan is this new $5 trillion tax cut. And now, I want you to pay attention here. We're going to do a little math. I know, it's not everybody's favorite subject, but math is important. I like that. Somebody said they love math. All right, so we've known for a while that a lot of this new $5 trillion tax cut would go to the wealthiest 1% of all households. But last week, an independent, nonpartisan organization crunched the numbers. They looked, what does this mean? $5 trillion. Keep in mind, by the way, the defense budget's about $500 billion. So a $5 trillion tax cut is, over 10 years, is like a tax cut that's as big as our entire defense budget every single year. All right? So these guys were trying to analyze, what does this mean? They found that Governor Romney's plan would raise taxes on middle-class families with children by an average of $2,000. Now, the reason is he says that this $5 trillion tax cut he'll pay for by doing other things. By, slashing education or making Medicare. But even after he makes all the cuts to education and training and science and research and transportation and environmental protection, you name it, it turns out he's still short. So the only way that you can actually pay for it is to have you pick up the bill.
No!
So you would then pay $2,000 extra every year, not to reduce the deficit, not to help our kids get an education, not to rebuild our roads and our bridges or lay broadband lines into rural communities. He would ask the middle class to pay more in taxes so he could give another $250,000 to people making more than $3 million a year. Now, he was asked about this, his campaign was asked about it. If this sounds like an idea that would be difficult to explain to the American people, you're right. Let's just say there was a whole different kind of gymnastics being performed by Mr. Romney than what's been happening in the Olympics. They were twisting and they were turning and doing backflips and trying to say, well, this is a biased report, despite the fact that the head of this nonpartisan center used to work for President Bush. But it's not surprising that he was trying to scramble a little bit because they've tried to sell this old trickle-down tax cut fairy dust before. And you know what? It did not work then. It won't work now. It's not a plan to create jobs. It's not a plan to lower the deficit. It's not a plan to move our economy forward. It's not a plan to build the middle class. We don't need more tax cuts for folks like me. We need tax cuts for working Americans. Now, are you guys still bending your knees? You got some water, get hydrated. Michelle maybe promised that I can't sing to others anymore. She wants me to just sing to her. Grand Junction, I've got a different plan for America. Their ideas aren't going to work. 4 years ago, I promised to cut middle-class taxes. That's exactly what I've done. The typical family has seen their taxes go down by about $3,600. So when you talk to your friends or neighbors, they say, he's a big spending tax-raising Democrat. You got to tell them, oh, actually, if you're in the middle class, your taxes have gone down. Exactly where they are for the first $250,000 of everybody's income. So if your family makes under $250,000, which by the way 98% of Americans do, 97% of small businesses do, you will not see your income taxes increase by a single dime next year. That's my plan. The Republicans in Congress, I said, let's do it now. You guys say you don't want to see anybody's taxes go up. I don't want to see anybody, who's making $250,000 a year or less, see their taxes go up. Let's go ahead and sign the bill. But, shockingly enough, they haven't agreed so far. Because they're holding you guys hostage to try to get tax cuts for the top 2%. Now, look. If you're fortunate enough to be in the other 2% of Americans, you're still going to get a tax cut on the first $250,000 you're in. So if you make $260,000, the first $250,000, you're still keeping all that tax cut. It's just that little bit over $250,000. Now, if you're making $5 million, you can afford it. For folks who have been blessed, like me, I mean, I'm not being self-interested here, it's not like I love paying taxes, but I understand I've got certain obligations because this country's been so good to me. So, all I'm saying is, for folks in the top 2%, let's go back to what we were paying under Bill Clinton. Let's contribute a little bit more so we pay down our deficit, and we can still invest in things like education. Our kids succeed. Just in case you're talking to your friends and neighbors again, and they say, well, that just a little bit of tax increase on the top 2%, that won't cut the deficit. They're right. We got to do more. So we've already cut $1 trillion. Federal spending is growing at a slower rate than any time since Dwight Eisenhower. I'll make sure government continues to do its part. We'll cut out spending we don't need. But I'm not going to pay for a massive new tax cut for millionaires and billionaires by gutting investments that have always made us strong as a country. Yes. Just like we tested their plan under the previous administration and it didn't work, we tested my plan because, as you'll recall, under Bill Clinton, when those taxes were a little bit higher on folks like me, the economy grew faster than it has in years. 23 million new jobs. Yes. We went from a deficit to a surplus. And pocket. Now he starts thinking about buying a new car.
No one goes to the bar.
When a teacher, has security in her job, now she might go to a restaurant once in a while. So what happens is when the middle class is strong, suddenly businesses have more customers, businesses have more profits, businesses decide to hire more workers, everybody does well. That's how we build a strong economy, not from the top down, from the middle up. Taxes, deductions. Now, when the American auto industry was on the brink of collapse, more than 1 million jobs at stake. Governor Romney says, let's let Detroit go bankrupt.
Yeah.
I said, let's bet on American workers. The American auto industry has come roaring back. So now, I want to make sure that the jobs of tomorrow, including advanced manufacturing jobs, that they're not taking root in China or Germany. I want them to take root in Colorado. Governor Romney and I have a different theory. He spent his private sector experience investing in companies that were called pioneers of outsourcing. I want to insource. I want to stop getting tax breaks and not making consumer jobs overseas. Let's give those tax breaks to companies that are investing in Colorado. Grand Junction, selling American products, stamping those goods with free buy words made in America. Mr. Romney says it was tragic for me to end the war in Iraq, like I promised. I think after a decade of war, it's time to do some nation building here at home. Thanks to the incredible service of our men and women in uniform. We are bringing troops home from Afghanistan. To put people back to work, rebuilding schools, rebuilding bridges, rebuilding roads, improving our airport system, improving our ports, so we can move goods and services that will make our economy strong, not just now, but in the future. And, by the way, that also helps us pay for providing services that our men and women in uniform have earned. Our veterans fought too hard for us to then have to fight for a job or a roof over their heads when they come home. That was the second cost we got to. I'm running to make sure America once again leads the world in educating our kids. Especially in math and science. Now, 2 million people go to community colleges to train for the jobs that businesses are hiring for right now. And I want to make sure that every young person can afford to go to college. We have already low rates. Save $3,000 per family, per homeowner. That could actually boost the economy and strengthen the housing market. When it comes to health care, he wants to kill Obamacare. I'm implementing Obamacare because of the already as we speak, 6.5 million young people under the age of 26 can stay on their parents' plan. Millions of seniors have saved hundreds of dollars on their prescription drugs that we're closing the door on. Individuals and businesses are getting rebates from their insurance companies because insurance companies have to use most of the money they get in premiums to provide care, not for CEO bonuses. If your child has a pre-existing condition, insurance companies can't turn them down. Soon, adults who have pre-existing conditions cannot be turned down. So if that's what Mr. Romney wants to get rid of, despite the fact that he did the same thing in Massachusetts and it worked pretty well. And that's a choice in this election. You know, I don't think we should be refighting some of the battles he wants to refight. I think it's the right thing to do to end don't ask, don't tell. I think control that women have over their own health care decisions. But most of all, I want to make sure that original bargain that made this country great, that basic idea that if you work hard, you can make it. And that is restored. And everything we do, from healthcare to education to manufacturing to our infrastructure to our investment in science and research, all of this is designed to make sure that we've got a strong middle class going forward. That no matter what you look like, where you come from, that everybody's got a fair shot. And everybody's doing their fair share. Everybody's playing by the same set of rules. That's the same promise our parents and our grandparents and our great-grandparents believed in. And now we've got to pass on that same promise to the next generation. Over the next 3 months, 89 days to be precise. The other side will be spending more money than we've ever seen. You got these guys writing $10 million checks. You got these super PACs that are just and now here's the thing, I don't want to run all these ads because basically they only have one ad. It's just a variation on the same ad. Which is, the economy is not where it should be and it's Obama's fault. That's their basic argument. Because they know they can't sell their actual plans, they don't have plans.
Right.
Their message is designed to try to win an election, but it's not a plan to create jobs. They don't have a plan to grow the economy. They don't have a plan to revive the middle class. But I do. Talk to your friends and your neighbors, and they say, well, I don't know, Mr. Romney, he ran a business. You know, I think maybe, that might work. Look, if you we already tried and didn't work is worth trying again. If you believe it's okay to cut taxes for folks who are doing really well and ask folks who are struggling to do more, do you think it's okay for us to cut back on our investments in education, science, and set our sights lower? That's your choice. That's how our democracy works. Try it out. But you know what? If you believe that we're on the right track, if you think like I do that we've come too far to turn back now, well, I'm going to leave you, Colorado. We've got too many good routes to the way. We've got too many good teachers behind us. We've got too many good schools to build. We've got too many students. We need to help go to college. We've got too much homegrown clean energy to generate. We've got more schools to bring home. We've got more doors of opportunity open to everybody who's willing to work hard. To help do that for us. We want to leave something behind for the next generation. That's why I'm running, and if you're willing to stand with me, and if you still